The 1%er Podcast with Sam Bakhtiar, bringing you the 1% knowledge to help you reach your full potential. Learn what it takes to rise above the 99% and become a 1%er.
Hey guys, welcome to the 1%er Podcast. This is your host, Sam Bakhtiar, and today I have a very, very amazing special guest here, none other than Shawn Ray.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
Shawn, I can't believe we're friends, first of all. I can't believe that I'm sitting here, you're in my house, and I can't believe that you are somebody that I've looked up to in so many ways for so many years, and we've been having this awesome relationship. I'm just a Pennsylvania boy growing up, skinny little kid, looking at muscle magazines in Sharon, Pennsylvania. You're all over Flex. You're all over every magazine. I think you're one of the top bodybuilders and the most covers, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember that the first time, I think I showed you the picture. And I sent you the picture when the first time I ever saw you in person was, I think it was 1994 when Flex Wheeler was competing at the Arnold Classic. I think Mike Francois won. Is that 1991?
95,
right?
That was the comeback.
95. Yeah. And the first time I saw you in person, you were outside signing autographs. Your haircut was a little different back then.
The flat top.
Yeah, the flat top.
The Bobby Brown.
And I was sitting there and I saw you and I wanted to come up to you and just to say hi, but I was so intimidated, and I was so starstruck that I was like, man, that's Shawn Ray. Oh my God, that's Shawn Ray. And now you're here, we're friends, and we can look back and talk about everything.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because it's the same for everybody. I mean, I'm quite sure that guys like myself, Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, we come from the same cloth. When I first started bodybuilding, I ran into a bodybuilder by the name of John Brown, and his picture was on the wall. He looked like he's from another world, and the admiration I had for him was like through the roof. Years later, takes me under his wing, helps give me the secrets to bodybuilding, helps me with my work ethic, winds up helping me out becoming a national champion, professional bodybuilder. He's at my wedding. His son was my ring bearer, and we're friends to this day. That was some 30 years ago, a whole nother lifetime ago. But I think for most bodybuilders that get started, they don't believe it's possible. They see the guys that are doing the business and they think, that's impossible. But when you put your nose to the grindstone and you keep doing the business, you don't know where the path is going to take you, and there's going to be some peaks and valleys and ups and downs. But if you keep doing the business, the rewards will come in some form or fashion. And I remember watching you coming up, and you were just like you said, just a guy that was trying to make his way. And you plodded and plodded and plodded and continued, and you found your way, and you found your niche. I think that's the same for everyone. It may not be on the bodybuilding stage, on the Olympia stage, but you find what works, and the hard work and the dedication, it comes. For those that quit along the way, you quit here, you quit there, you're just gonna be a quitter. And you cannot be a quitter. And so that's what's crazy about watching your journey is also that the 1%, there's only a few that can do what they do at the levels that they do it in. And luckily for me, I had some very good role models. I had some good examples of planting the seeds of discipline, and they never left me, whether it was through training or the discipline of the diet or the discipline of the business of bodybuilding. I was all in. Yeah. And once you become all in and you find your niche, it could take you places that you never dreamed of. Literally every other week, Sam, I'm on an airplane. I was in Germany last weekend. This weekend, tomorrow, I'm headed to France. The weekend prior to that, I was in Hawaii. Prior to that, I was in India. Bodybuilding is a global enterprise, and it doesn't matter what level, whether you're dealing with gym equipment, the supplement industry, or the competitive side, we have such a far reach, and it's on a global scale that what I was doing here, living in Chino Hills in the 90s when I met you, was affecting people around the world. And it was driving me because I did have this impact on people. And my motivation was to continue making that positive impact. And now I'm a promoter and I'm able to create dreams and watch these guys go on and live the life that I've lived.
I can tell that you always had a true love for bodybuilding. And here's how I can tell. There are people who got into bodybuilding for the fame and maybe the so-called money they thought, and they do their bodybuilding, and after that, you never see them again. They're not working out. They're not in any kind of bodybuilding. They're not in any kind of supplement. They fall off the earth, because they got into it for the wrong reason. You truly love bodybuilding. You truly love this sport. To this day, you're still in great shape. I see you in the gym every morning. You still, take care of yourself, and you are really, really, truly involved. You are you study bodybuilding from the beginning till now. You're like a historian of bodybuilding. How did that begin? How did you fall in love with bodybuilding? I know you played football.
Right, that was
when
my
you were,
start.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I got injured playing football, and then of course I took to the weights to try to rehab a bum knee. It's just a strained knee. It wasn't torn or anything, but while I was training, I kind of saw the metamorphosis and the power, and then also the independence. I played a team sport for my whole life. From 8 to 18, I was involved with a team sport that was seasonal. And in getting involved with bodybuilding, which is not seasonal, it's year round.
Yeah.
I found something that kept me busy, kept me out of the streets. It was healthy and clean and wholesome. And of course, I'm revering at what's possible in the magazine by looking at the detail in the quadriceps of a Samir Banu, who was the '83 Olympia champion, the symmetry and shape of a Bob Paris. I mean, I fell in love with
Bob
beauty.
Bob Paris, he's like one of your, one of your top, people that you looked up to, right?
Well, he's complete.
Yes.
From head to toe, who didn't want to be Bob Paris in the 80s? He's on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. Every girl wanted him. Every guy wanted him. I mean, this was a guy that for me, I thought, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
And so I did everything I could do to be that. So you can imagine in '83, having that admiration for the '83 national champion and universe winner, to fast forward to 1988, and I'm sitting on the bus on the way to the Mr. Olympia, the day of my birthday, and Bob Paris is sitting next to me.
You won the nationals in '87, right?
I did.
Yeah,
yes.
You won the national. That's when you turned pro. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, in 1988, you got your first contract.
Well, it was 1987. I won the nationals. In December of 1987, I got $1,000 a month from Joe Weider, and I couldn't have been more happy because I grew up. It was like getting the diploma. As a matter of fact, I didn't go back to college. I was in college when I was competing in the Mr. Olympia, and I chose not to go back to school. Instead, I moved out of my mom's house, got a 2-bedroom apartment that was $700 a month back then. I had a car payment that was $289. So you do the math. I need food, gas, insurance. I had to make it work.
Yeah.
And by not having the safety net, I got involved with the business of bodybuilding. I learned that being on the cover of a magazine had its rewards. So I printed up t-shirts and posters, pictures. I quickly went into the production side and created a video, The Lifestyle of the Fit and Famous. And I started making myself available for stores, gyms, anything bodybuilding related on a global scale. Back then they didn't have the internet. So I was faxing a lot of stuff and I was snail mailing a lot of stuff. But you know what? I send out 200 things and 20 of them come back. That's 20 weeks of work that I created for myself while I'm maintaining this bodybuilding lifestyle to help put food on the table. You
got to be not one of the best, but I would say the best bodybuilder who marketed himself. And because you understand that bodybuilding is just like any professional sports, has an expiration date.
Absolutely.
You can't do bodybuilding forever. You knew that from the start.
Yeah.
You're gonna have X amount of time in here, so I got to be able to plant seeds, do things to be able to sustain this. It's something I love, and you did that from the very beginning, which I don't see. 99% of bodybuilders don't do that. All they do is train, then go eat, go sleep, train, go eat, sleep. I want to, they're just going for that one Mr. Olympia or, Arnold Classic winner and all that kind of stuff. You knew that wasn't going to carry you over. You need to build a legacy, right? And you did that. You always promoted yourself very well.
I didn't think I was anything special in terms of like being a unicorn, like I'm smarter than all the other bodybuilders, but I just happened to be a good bodybuilder and I liked what I did. So it wasn't it wasn't laborious for me. It was something that I loved to get up and actually do. But in the meantime, I read 3 newspapers a day. I never moved 20 miles away from where I was born. My friends were the kids I went to elementary school, junior high, and high school. So you can imagine, you have the bodybuilders that are coming from New York and from Europe, they migrate to Gold's Gym. And their friends are other bodybuilders. And so their limitations are what the other bodybuilders are talking about and what the other bodybuilders want to do. So they just want to eat, sleep, and train. So you're limited on the mindset. And then as they grew up, a lot of the bodybuilders were playing video games. And so you become a video idiot because you're playing video games. They don't even know what's happening in the world. And when they're traveling, they're not paying attention to the country they're going to. And I was a historian. I was always a historian in school. I loved history, which was the beauty of traveling as a bodybuilder. Going to South Africa and putting my hands on the jail cell that Nelson Mandela was held captive in for 27 years.
Yeah, no bodybuilder does that, man. You know,
I did 3 book reports on the guy.
They're looking on for where's my rice cake?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I had done 3 book reports on Nelson Mandela in high school and in college, and to have the opportunity to suddenly have these reports that I did crystallized into holding on to the jail cell, seeing the dimensions and looking at the rock quarry that he had to tear down, and listening to the prisoners tell the story of Nelson Mandela. And then there's other places in the world that bodybuilding has taken me. When I went to Brazil, I went up to the Cristo where the statue of the Christ is at. I mean, I love seeing those things as a fruit of my labor. Training and the sweat equity I put in the gym gave me the opportunity to now go and enjoy the fruit of that labor. And so not leaving too far away from the house, my friends kept me grounded. My normal friends that had 9-to-5 jobs, that didn't care whether I was Shawn Ray, Mr. Olympia, or just Shawn Ray from around the block.
I remember that. I remember, your friends. I remember Powerhouse Gym in Fullerton.
Yeah, they kept me grounded. I wasn't not better than other bodybuilders, but I always knew, like Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. Richie Cunningham was a child star coming up. Opie Taylor, and then he moved into the Happy Days, and I watched him move into behind the camera, and I realized the longevity is really behind the camera. And so the production into bodybuilding became very interesting to me as I was bodybuilding. One of the few bodybuilders that while I was training for competition, I was also emceeing bodybuilding shows. I was also putting on muscle camps. I was also interested in producing DVDs. Actually, there were videos back then. I produced 6 or 7 videos and DVDs along the way. And then I started creating opportunities for other bodybuilders. I realized that when I went to places, the promoters would ask me, like, who do you think we should have next? What bodybuilder do you think we should bring in for a seminar or guest poser? Then I started being an agent. I started finding work for other bodybuilders. I'd call Flex Wheeler up and I'd say, Flex, what's it gonna take to get you out here to New York to guest pose? It's $3,000. I call the promoter back. I can get Flex Wheeler for $3,500.
Yeah.
Boom, I got $500 for making a phone call. And then I started replicating that. And the bodybuilders started asking me, hey, how do I get to Germany? How do I get to Brazil? How do I get to Japan? So I was monetizing, helping them get what they wanted as an agent, and I would get what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then working with ESPN, having a workout show on TV, I knew the value, the visibility of being on television. It would broaden my market. I would generate more publicity, more fans.
Who taught you that, though? I mean, is that something that you always knew, or is that something that just came that natural hustle, or did like someone like Bob Harris or John Brown told you, hey man, you need to market yourself, so just don't be that guy?
It wasn't something that was taught. I learned along the way that it was sink or swim. I didn't have a plan B. If I got injured in bodybuilding, and I always was aware of the injury factor, what was I gonna do? Well, I loved the sport, so I didn't mind emceeing shows. It was a little less pay, reading names off of paper, but it warranted a fee and it warranted a salary. So if I get 15, 20 gigs a year, I was making $20,000, $30,000 to travel around, MC and host shows.
And still stay relevant.
And stay relevant. So that was one revenue stream. Then I was sponsored by Powerhouse Gym. I was sponsored by Pro Fitness USA. I was sponsored by Ruthless Wear, Max Muscle, the Shawn Ray Muscle Blast Glove by Saranac, Weider Nutrition.
You had your own ESPN show, remember?
I had my ESPN show.
I remember you on
So I had these different revenue streams that if an injury came, I was still able to stay afloat and pay the mortgage and keep the cars and live the lifestyle that I created. I was not all in on just eat, sleeping, and training. I knew the value of diversification, but I also knew the power of media. And that's how I wound up pursuing voice and diction and acting for the camera while I was in school, preparing me for the opportunity to have a public speaking platform. And I did that throughout my career.
Okay, so that was my next question, because you are a very, very good speaker. You are very eloquent. You able to speak the correct words. That's something that you went and learned?
I did learn in school. I was in college. I took acting for the camera while I was a teenager. I was 18, 19 years old, but I won the Teenage America at 19. I won the Junior Universe over in Europe, or over in Australia at 20 years old. I had a market where I needed to speak in front of people. And naturally, prior to that, I was pretty shy. I didn't like a crowd. Like we'd have basketball games at the high school, and I'd like wait till everyone stood up to come in because I didn't like to walk in front of the bleachers and everyone's staring at me, right? I didn't like all eyes on me until I got comfortable with the idea of acting for the camera. And those classes in college prepared me for the bigger stage of standing at a podium and talking to thousands of people.
Because out of all the bodybuilders that I know, and I'm not saying that because you're my friend, I think this is a known fact. I think you are the best spoken bodybuilder, in any generation, as far as that, because most bodybuilders, when, that's why they have the stereotype, right? The good old dumb bodybuilder, you know what I mean? And you can speak, you can convey your word, and that's something that's very marketable. That's why you've been very marketable.
I was a big boxing fan coming up, and trust me, when I was in the 80s and late 70s, to listen to a world-class boxer speak after he wins a world championship, I thought, what the hell's going on with this guy? He can't string two sentences together. So being young and watching that, I was always kind of like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I came up at the time of Mike Tyson. Our careers were parallel. When I was coming up and winning the Nationals in '87, he just became the youngest heavyweight champion of the world. It was 1 year separating us. And I would go into that gym with the mentality of a Mike Tyson, that my training partner was not my friend. He had to pay sparring partners to fight back, to come in and challenge the champion. He had to pay them so they would, go above and beyond what they would. For me, I had to go through these different training partners because they wouldn't come back to continue training with me. I would try to knock them out in the gym. So I'm trying to parallel my career along with Mike Tyson, but I'm acutely aware that these guys, I don't want to say they're dumb as a box of rocks, because when you deal with millions of dollars, you got to be kind of smart and savvy in certain areas. But they were one-dimensional.
Yeah, one-dimensional.
Most of the boxers were one-dimensional, and I noticed that several of the bodybuilders were one-dimensional.
Oh,
but we had our exceptions. I mean, I watched Gary Stridham build the clothing empire. Mike Christian, he had a clothing empire. I saw certain examples of what success looked like to me. But the one thing I knew was I was more than a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to have longevity, I needed to know every asset of it. And the only thing that I've never done in the bodybuilding industry is judge. It doesn't interest me to stand there and judge and critique a person. However, I am a critic. I can analyze a body while I'm.
We know you're a critic, Shawn. We know you're a critic.
I developed thousands of haters as a result of my criticism. I tell the truth.
You just spoke the fucking truth.
Yeah, and I sleep good at night.
A lot of people, who says it? They said if you don't have a hater by 12 noon, you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know, you got a bunch of haters, but is everything that they wanted to say that they did, but they didn't say.
I can tell you, Sam, and with that, the criticism of me, I'm not immune to criticism, but I get the pats on the back, but the criticism I listen to when it's constructive, talking about my physique. Yeah. I know I'm short. I know I'm a little bit narrow. I know I've got high calves. I mean, the things about my physique I was always aware of, which made me comfortable. But like Arnold, when he had the calf issues and they were saying his calves are small, he cut his shorts off. And when he went to the gym, he trained in shorts. Because if you hide them, it's going to be one of those things you do last. For him, he trained them first. Yeah. So I was always aware of my weaknesses. When it came down to it, I knew my thighs were really big, so I started off my workouts with my hamstrings. Yeah. I knew I wanted big barn door delts like Kevin Levrone, so I made sure that I did my side laterals before I did my heavy presses.
Yeah, I remember you doing them too.
The criticism that I got, I took it to the gym and used it. Yeah. The criticism that I dish out to other bodybuilders, they use it against me as a weapon. They don't even want to talk to me. Yeah. They can't handle the criticism. Yeah. Yeah. And so you find that as you go through this sport, there's more bodybuilders with thin skin than thick skin.
Oh, yeah.
You got to learn how to handle the criticism.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, like, use that as a fuel.
Absolutely.
Not as a letdown, man.
I got better because of the criticism.
I remember there was a guy that used to work for me, and he had an amazing physique. Small joints, big full muscle bellies, and he just looked like shit. He didn't diet enough. Mm-hmm. He comes after a show, after a preacher, hey, what do you think? What do you think? I said, dude, you look like shit. I think you could be better than that. Mm-hmm. So he was mad at me for like 3 months. He didn't talk to me and all that kind of stuff. And then next year he went and won it. Yeah. And he comes up and said, dude, I won it because you criticized me. You told me I need to diet more. I need to get in shape. I'm like, that's what I want. I want to criticize you so you become better. I'm not criticizing you to be an asshole.
It's coming from a good place.
I want to push you. And my team knows that I do the same thing for them. It's not like I'm not trying to, put you down, but I want to be able to get you to step up.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad that, you see it that way and all that. So I'm willing to bet that you probably have made more money outside of bodybuilding than in bodybuilding.
Well, I mean, because I'm diversified.
You're like the Floyd Mayweather of bodybuilding.
I think staying diversified gives you balance, number one. Because, listen, at the end of the day, you can only lift weights for so long on that level. Yeah. I knew that at some point in time, things are going to start breaking down. But I I wasn't in love with going to the gym as I got a little bit older. My friends were getting married, having children. I had everything. I'd been everywhere. You know, I wanted a family. So I decided that, you know what, let me pull back a little bit and focus on this. And I created a life with my wife in 15 years now. We just had an anniversary. Raising girls,
I remember when you met her at the gym.
Yeah, in the gym. I mean, where else am I going to meet her, right? I mean, I just spent my life in the gym.
Yeah.
But so I turned my focus from me to them. And in doing that, now I got to provide. And in order to provide, I got to use my education through my bodybuilding to stay diversified. So that's why I've created the Shawn Ray Classics, and I just did my international one. I just did the Shawn Ray Classic in India, came back from Germany, and we're going to be working on one over in Romania, Algeria, and potentially over in China. So now it would go from Shawn Ray Classics to Shawn Ray International.
Wow.
But those are little things that I do because then it also gives me the opportunity to continue working with my equipment company, which is based out of China. Real leader. They're on a global basis now too, dishing out product all over the world. And on the flip side of that, still an ambassador. I mean, everything that comes out of my mouth has been put in there through experts. Joe Weider, John Balick, photographer Chris Lund, working very closely with Mike Glass, the producer of back in the day of California. Everything that I am is little pieces of people that help pave the way for me.
And you got the best out of each one.
I got the best, and now I'm paying it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
My show in Hawaii, for example, Dot and Mitz Kawashima, they both passed on. They brought me there in 1989 to guest pose. I went there 4 years ago to MC a show, and I kind of saw the state of affairs in the Hawaiian situation. It wasn't good. Went to Jim Mannion, the president of the NPC, told him, give me a shot, put me in the game, let me just try to correct this. Came out of the box, had the biggest show that they've ever had, 263 competitors. And then I started talking to other guys. Hidetani Yamagishi, 212 Arnold Classic champion. I said, Hide, how can I get you involved? He's got a show over in Japan. He's taken 3 of my champions to go compete in Japan where they can compete for a pro card. So now I'm giving the Hawaiians an opportunity that never existed before.
To get a pro card there.
To go, all expenses paid, to Japan to compete in his show and actually turn pro.
Nice.
Last year I took 2 of them to China. So I'm doing things on a promotional basis that exist, but no one's ever thought about actually putting them into reality.
It makes sense, but nobody cared enough, I think.
Yeah, well,
nobody cared enough, or nobody wanted to spend the money.
Yeah.
Or be able to do that.
I was going over there and they were getting the same awards from 20 years ago. And I came over with national championship, USA the trophies that you win for the USA and the nationals, I'm now giving them to my athletes in Hawaii.
Yeah.
They would never get those otherwise.
No.
So I'm getting a little bit more creative in that, but I think the more you give back, Sam, the more comes your way. And the more diversified you are, the simpler things are. I mean,
now, have you always been that way? Have you always been what I call a go-giver? Or this is something that later on you learn that, hey man, the more I give, the more I will receive. And that's just something that I wasn't always that way. When I was coming up, Shawn, because I was broke. It was all about survival, right? Trying to make every penny. Hey, you owe me this, and all that kind of stuff. And then later on, as I got, got comfortable, I got everything. I'm like, I don't need to get every penny.
Right.
And then I'm like, you know what? I want to do this for you. I want to do that for you. And when you do that, somehow the universe and God blesses you back.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Which is why my relationships are 30 plus years. I mean, I started in 83. Yeah. And literally the people that have influenced me are still in my life. I mean, people say, well, I saw you and Kevin Levrone together. We had some epic battles throughout the 90s. Yeah. We're way into retirement.
That's a frenemies.
We're frenemies, but it works. The yin and the yang is, Kevin, hey, Shawn, can you MC my show? I have my first show in Poland. I go out to Poland to MC his show. Hey, Kevin, can you come out to Hawaii and support my show? I want to give you an award. Yeah, Shawn, I'll bring. So he's getting
so cool,
this yin and the yang. It works, and I'm sending athletes that are winning now to photographers like Jason Ellis. He didn't have a chance to photograph me, the king of the covers. Didn't have a chance to photograph me because he came along late in the game, but I'm able to send him athletes now.
Hey, Jason's an amazing dude, man. He's a mutual friend of ours, man, and he's a real cool dude, man.
Relationships in this business is everything. So for the internet, where you can get smashed and torn apart by any Tom, Dick, and Harry that has a keyboard, it doesn't tear apart the relationships that you have built from the ground up. And so I don't really care what people say about me in the universe that I don't know. I care about the relationships that I took decades to build. And those relationships are coming to fruition now. Yeah. I mean, I'm working with Weider AMI and Muscle and Fitness, who I got my start with Joe and Ben Weider. had left them and went to muscular development. I wrote for Robert Kennedy at Muscle Mag International. I spent time with Generation Iron doing their media thing, and now I'm doing Shawn Ray TV, and here I am on your podcast. I mean, everything seems to kind of come full circle when you continue to grind. Yeah. And I wasn't. I was a very selfish bodybuilder. When I was bodybuilding, I was doing that for Shawn Ray.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a whole lot easier now not being in the same skin where my physique is being analyzed. My physique's not on display. It's the mind, right? So now it's like I don't have to walk in a room and feel like I'm being judged based on my physique, but my body of work.
Yeah, I remember, when I was a student in chiropractic school, and you were, getting ready for shows in Powerhouse Gym in Fullerton. I used to come, and these are just memories that I'm spitting out. I remember you used to come, and you had like the cleanest bins, man. You had that silver, what was it, a 500 coupe, back there, with, S-Ray, and you always parked it right on the side. Yeah. And I used to come like, man, God, one day.
And you know how many haters I had as a result? Some people just hated you because you were successful, Sam.
Oh,
and that drove me too, because the guys that didn't like me for whatever reason, because I parked my car a certain way or because I drove a certain car, they got me up out of bed every morning to go back and just continue to grind. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I somehow knew in my heart of hearts that people are watching. From the smallest to the biggest, they're watching. And that might stimulate them to want to continue their grind.
Well, let me tell you a story. My first pro bodybuilding show that I've ever been to was, I think Pittsburgh had 1 or 2 pro bodybuilding shows. Mm-hmm. And I was like in high school or early, freshman in college or something like that. We went, me and my 3 friends, we were lifting buddies. We went to the Pittsburgh bodybuilding show, and that's the first time I saw Mike Matarazzo, Porter Cottrell, and a bunch of other bodybuilders. I was like in awe. Mm-hmm. Like I've never seen a bodybuilder ripped up, and Matarazzo, Porter. I was like, oh my God. I was like, it was like, couldn't believe it, right? But when I was sitting and watching the bodybuilding show, and I saw that there's 3 types of people. One type was the guy like me. I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, I need to go to the gym now. I need to go back to the drawing board. Right. I need to work out, man. I need to get my nutrition plan together. I need to get my supplementation plan together. I want to look like that. I can't wait to go back. I don't even want to be here. Right. I was motivated. I was inspired. I was inspired by your car, or your lifestyle, what you were doing, and I was inspired. And then you had the critic, right? The critic was the bodybuilder who never did anything. But sitting down there, man, Mike Matarazzo, his arms are good, but he needs to bring his calves up, and this and that. I'm looking at him like, why aren't you on stage? He's on stage and you're criticizing him. Why don't you get on stage and see how you do? Because I don't see you on the covers. I don't see you on the stage, right? So you had the critic, and you had the downright fucking haters, right? Mm-hmm. I remember sitting down there, the guys, man, this guy, I wonder how much shit is he on, right?
Nobody's
and
good.
And I'm going like this. I'm like, dude, you look like you on some shit too. You just don't look like that,
right?
You know what I mean? So don't criticize. You know what I mean? And so right there and then I learned in life, whether you have a nice car or whether you start climbing up a ladder of success. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna have those 3 types of people. Your job is to focus on inspiring.
Sure.
Because you sure did inspire me. And I remember watching your shows at ESPN, you and Kevin Levrone working out. I'm literally like, my eyes are just like coming out of my socket, like, look at his delts. Oh my God. Like, look at Charlotte's legs. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like totally inspired, man.
See, that's what the appreciation factor for comments like that, they don't come when you're on the TV. They come later in life. Like, I'm so far removed from that I can appreciate it now. When I said I was selfish as a bodybuilder, well, that's why I was good, because it was all about me.
It's a selfish sport.
But as I've gotten further away from the stage and the further away I get, the more I'm hearing of the impact that I had, which makes me feel good, because I realized I wasn't alone. Although the loneliest place to be is in preparation for the Mr. Olympia contest, or on any level for a competition. Let me tell you why. And I gotta relate this kind of to A Star Is Born. I just saw that movie with Lady Gaga and Ben Cooper, whatever his name, Bradley Cooper. You could be on the stage getting all this adulation from people you don't know, and it feels great. It's a high that you can't replicate unless you're on the stage. And for a bodybuilder like me, I was competing once a year. So I only got that once a year, with the exception of my guest posing appearances. But when the show's over, I came home to a dog. And my routine of cooking all of my meals, training twice a day, driving back and forth to the gym, having those restless nights because you were sore or you were achy. I was alone. I didn't have a girlfriend living with me. I didn't have a wife to take care of me. I was a soldier at war. And when you're getting ready for the Mr. Olympia, you don't want those distractions, because the guy that does have that distraction is at a disadvantage. Yeah. He's torn between making sure his girlfriend or his wife is taken care of, because she's got emotions and she's got feelings and she has needs and she has wants. If you have kids, it's a whole nother animal. But I lived alone. So I came in, I opened my refrigerator, I knew what was in there. I wasn't gonna be tempted by the Cocoa Puffs or the cupcakes or all the foods that were gonna take me off my diet. I had what was there to make Shawn Ray look the way Shawn Ray was. But it's a lonely, isolated world when you have to do that day in, day out, day in, day out. And then the Mr. Olympia comes and you're in front of everyone, the magazines come out. But at the end of the day, you're still going home alone, and you're still putting your pants on one leg at a time, and you don't have anyone to share it with. So the dream becomes bigger. The desire to get away from that lifestyle, it gnaws at you. And by the time I decided to leave in 2001, I never looked back. I never had a desire to do it again, because I had done it. Everything I had, I wrung it out. And when I left, there was never a desire to come back to it, because I was complete. My cup ran over. And I looked forward to that day that I could come home and have someone waiting for me, that I could come home and it's not about, I can open the refrigerator and be surprised.
That is, that is crazy, because, you're a good looking guy. You had one of the top physiques of all times. I'm sure girls were throwing themselves at you.
It takes discipline.
That's what I'm saying.
It takes discipline.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're Shawn Ray, bro.
Yeah.
You're a Hall of Fame bodybuilder, one of the greatest physiques of all time, good-looking guy, educated, top 5 Mr. Olympia for so many years in a row, girls throwing themselves at you, and yet you decided you want to be alone, you want to go to, that's what you want. That's dedication, because, a lot of people say, I was all in, but they're not fucking all in.
No, they're not.
They're not fucking all in.
They're a
little this, a little that, this and that. You and I know a lot of bodybuilders that, they just hang out with a girl just because
they can cook or drive.
They can cook, drive, to do something for them, or even just not the right girl. They know they're just wasting time, right?
I can tell you, Sam, when you say that, they were at a distinct disadvantage for me.
Yeah.
I mean, my mind and my head was straight, but I can tell you that bodybuilding is a very fragile sport for a lot of fragile people. Yeah. We have anorexia, bigorexia. You got guys that were skinny that want to be big, and you got girls that are fat that want to be small. And so when you get into this dysfunction in the gym of trying to create this illusion of perfect, upstairs it's still screwed up. Flex Wheeler was very close to me as a bodybuilder. He never felt he could be Mr. Olympia. When I thought he was at his best in '93 at the Arnold Classic, I thought he could have won an Olympia at times, but he never believed it. He never bought into it, because he still felt he was skinny kitty from the beginning. Even as he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars, sponsorships, he never felt right in his skin. And there's a lot of bodybuilders that don't feel right. It looks one way, but on the inside, they're screwed up.
Well, I don't think he had the influence that you had from the beginning. You had the work ethic. I remember when you came in. Here's a difference that I see from an outside. Between you and Flex Wheeler, for example. Even Flex Wheeler is genetically superior to your.
He was. He drove me.
Yeah. He is. The guy is genetically just superior. I don't think anybody, maybe Phil Heath.
Yeah.
He's a genetic freak, right? Just little joints, big muscle bellies, just great, separations and all that kind of stuff. But when you came to the gym, you didn't talk to nobody. No. You didn't have training partners. You trained by yourself. You were focused. You didn't make eye contact. You were there to train and do your job only. When I saw Flex for the first time train, I can be honest with you. I was so disappointed. Yeah. Because I'm coming from Pennsylvania. I'm looking at these bodybuilders are fucking beasts in the gym, and they're fucking doing this and they're doing that. I saw Flex in the gym, man.
2 or 3 partners.
2 or 3 kids partners and this and that, and the partners, like, he's standing there. The guy comes in and just hands him the weight.
Yeah.
He goes like this. He hands it back. He's not even racking his own weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going like, what the fuck is that? He's doing the weight that I can do. You know what I mean? And I'm like 10 times smaller than him. I'm like, what is he?
So let me tell you the flip side of that. So getting back to A Star Is Born, the disappointment of finding out that your hero is not who you built him up to be. It's a big fall from reality when you build something up and then you see that it's not what it's supposed to be. So Bradley Cooper is on stage, he's got all these fans, and Lady Gaga is admiring him, and then he's a a raging alcoholic
Yeah.
who is not comfortable in his own skin and can't get his arms around his celebrity to the degree that her star rises. So many bodybuilders come into this messed up with vices and with dysfunction that trying to be diversified and be balanced, it's hard to do. Not to mention many of them leave their families because their fathers don't understand that they're shaving their legs and they're looking at half naked men in magazines and they want to be this bodybuilder when they had bigger dreams for their kids.
Yeah.
They wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer
but
or get a real job.
I was that person.
Right, so I mean, you have to fight this family struggle with, what are you doing with your life? Like I played football for 10 years and my parents were like, you want to go lift weights for a living? How are you going to make money? And then naturally, when I was driven by the fact that I can't fail because I left this football behind and had success relatively early on in my career, my parents couldn't have been more proud of the decision that I made. But I'm still in this world of drugs. I'm still in this world of gay for pay or whatever. I mean, there's this black cloud that follows bodybuilding and it has a lot of negative stigmas. And it was incumbent upon me to knock down a lot of those stigmas. I needed to make sure that I was a spokesman, that I was an ambassador, that I'm a black guy going into pretty much a predominantly white industry where I'm going to be judged on the color of my skin. At least in my mind I am, because I was judged my entire life as a kid coming up.
Yeah.
So I have my own preconceived notions on how I'm being perceived. Shorter than I should be, blacker than I want to be, and I'm coming from Orange County. So I wasn't black enough for a lot of black people because I didn't talk the same language. And I don't know, everyone has their idea of what a black person's supposed to sound like. Here I am, I'm listening to rock and roll, and I got my brothers over here listening to hip hop. I mean, trust me, when I went into Venice Beach and I walked around, Chris Cormier and Rico McClinton and Flex Wheeler, they were from one side of the tracks. I'm from another side of the track. You're getting judged all the time, no matter where the hell you go. Either I'm really educated or I'm just, I'm selling out. I'm an Oreo.
Oreo.
That played to my advantage because I didn't see color. And I felt as I moved through the bodybuilding world and traveled around the world, I was seen as a bodybuilder. And so I didn't have that chip on my shoulder about feeling black or not black enough. I made do with what I had. I didn't need to be 7 feet tall and 400 pounds. My seminars, they pretty much started off when I walk in and it's not the reception that I'm not getting a standing ovation. So I usually break the ice by going, what, I'm shorter than you thought I was? Sorry to disappoint. But then by the time I took my shirt off, they're on their feet going, holy crap, where did all that come from? Bodybuilding is a sport of illusion.
Yes.
I can make you see what I want you to see physically. But by the time I get done talking to you, you'll realize that behind it all, there's more than just muscles. And that was my whole thing, is I wanted to be more than just muscles. It opened up more doors than a lot of other bodybuilders because that's all they thought about was how much protein they were going to eat, how big they needed to be. I needed to make sure that I was diverse and educated.
I know you placed top 5 in Olympia for like so many years straight.
12.
12 years straight. Jesus. I mean, that, just being on Olympia 12 years, not only that, being top 5 and I think runner-up a couple of times, and I know during that time, we were in we call it a mass monster.
Yeah, it was.
Mass monster era, right?
In 90.
And I know you kept voicing your opinion about the distended stomachs and distorted physiques and
game changers
and people just excessive use of anabolic steroids and growth hormone and all that kind of stuff. You had Dorian Yates coming in at 265 pounds, but with belly sticking out, NASA or somebody, used to come in, 300 pounds and this and that. And there were in the low 200s, but with a symmetrical physique, but you were getting points deducted because you were a mass monster and you weren't willing to do that to your physique, But unfortunately, if you were competing now with that physique, it would be a whole different ball game because we went back.
Yeah, well, that's what history shows. What's old is new and what's new is old. I think they weren't ready for me at the time because it sounded selfish for me to complain about we need new judges. It sounded selfish for me to be the only vocal person tearing down Mr. Olympia, to point out the fact that he did have a pregnant stomach, that he does have a torn bicep. Those are things that were obvious to everyone, but none of the other competitors wanted to say it. And trust me, a lot of people had warned me, shut up. I was like, listen, how are we, in 2001 when I retired, I'd won the Pro Ironman in 1990 for $10,000. First Pro Ironman was 10 grand. I retired in 2001. It was still 10 grand. Going into 2003, 4, and 5, I'm like, how is this possible that this, inflation is everywhere? Ticket sales are up. We're including more and more sponsors. Everybody's getting rich, except you're giving the bodybuilder whose sweat equity is not being rewarded.
It takes more than 10 grand to get ready for the fucking show.
Yeah.
I'm not a mathematician, but that's a fucking losing ROI.
So that was one of my arguments. And I'm retired arguing the same point that the prize money hasn't changed. And I'm arguing it with the Olympia. And I'm arguing the fact that the posing is not being scored adequately. So I put my money where my mouth was. When I had the opportunity to become a promoter, the first thing I did was I created a $10,000 Best Poser Award. And that was for the best posing routine. Here you go. Thanks for entertaining us. My first show I came out with, I had the third largest prize money on the pro circuit that calendar year. You know who won that show? Phil Heath. It was $25,000 for the prize money. So you can imagine the Mr. Olympia was giving away, 100-something thousand. The Arnold was giving away 100-some change. I gave away $25,000. I'm a first-time promoter,
Yeah, I guess that's...
and I'm giving away $25,000, and it's the third largest.
Something's wrong.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. So I did put my money where my mouth was. So while I was getting the criticism, I was still trying to change the sport. And here I just went to the Arnold Classic after 31 years, and I saw Arnold brought back the Best Poser Award. They gave it to Josh Lenarkowitz from Australia. He got $10,000 for Best Poser. And they stopped judging posing a long time ago. Posing counts for absolutely nothing. But here's Arnold. He gets it, and he gives this prize money away. The Mr. Olympia is now $400,000. For many, many years, it was $100,000. And I had to come up behind that structure. The judges, I'm not so sure that they're rotating the way that I'd like them to judge. But if you have the same judges, you have the same opinions, which is why you have the same champions.
You look at it, man. You look at it like this, man. In basketball or in football, right? Is an objective sport, which means that the ball either goes in the hoop or doesn't go in the hoop,
sure.
right? There's some disparity, but it's not like, oh my God, like, if a team wins, it's going to win by a lot or that. But in bodybuilding, it's subjective. It's subjective to the person's opinion, okay, or what a physique should be. So if we're having the same person judge, then it means that they're going to have the same opinion as the same person. So it makes total sense, even though people didn't want to accept it.
They didn't want to accept it.
They want to accept it.
I think it has to come with the deliverer. It was me who's close to winning doing the loud talking. Now, had I got some unity amongst my peers.
Oh, nobody backed you up there.
Nobody backed me up.
Nobody backed you up. You were the only one speaking it, and nobody wanted to say anything because they fear the powers to be.
But history will show I was right.
It did already.
And now you see the distended stomachs. And now you see the other bodybuilders that are complaining that they're still not able to survive in this sport because the prize money isn't where it should be. Some of the changes I was trying to implement didn't get implemented.
They brought the heavyweight, it's like 200 pounds or something like that. What's that weight division?
212.
212. You know what I mean? That wasn't there before.
Let me give you some history. It started with the 202. And the first 202 competition they ever had was mine. At the New York Pro, I joined up with Steve Weinberger. I asked him if I could do the 202-pound show because I knew he had a venue and I knew I already had the judges. So all I had to do was come up with the prize money. I raised that prize money, and David Henry was the very first guy to win the 202, and he was also the first guy to win the 202 Olympia. I created that. I'm not looking for pats on the back, but you don't hear that anywhere.
Yeah, you spoke about it.
You don't hear that I created that, and I created it because the smaller bodybuilders were disappearing.
Yeah.
They were like going the way of the 8-track, and I thought something has to be done. So then from that, it grew into the 212-pound division. Not looking for pats on the back. That will also show that I put my money where my mouth is because all that complaining was falling on deaf ears. So I decided to do something about it. So I created the 202 division with the help of Jim Mannion. And now with the expansion of the NPC worldwide, Jim Mannion is also giving us some latitude and some rope to go out and become cowboys. That's why I wound up in India with the Shawn Ray Classic. And they're having shows over in England, and now they're in Japan and in China. It's gone global with the NPC, thank goodness. I mean, because we don't have Rafael Santoja, the former president, holding back and suppressing the athletes. Jim, Robin Chang, expanding the NPC. Now Dan Solomon stepped in, and Tamer El Gundy have stepped in to make the Mr. Olympia even bigger. And here I am coming home to the Muscle and Fitness Weider AMI crew to help be a part of that. So while things look bleak in the middle of it, I mean, the longevity factor for me, life is good, man. I have no complaints.
Yes.
Everybody was sitting here going, well, what did you do back in and how did you diet? So I created an ebook. You know, I didn't have the time to actually write a book, a hard copy book when I was bodybuilding, but in my retirement, I was able to go, you know what, let me take all of these questions from all these people, put all the answers in one place. And working with Natalie Min and Paul Hoven, we created the Shawn Ray Way ebook, which basically is a one-stop shop to help answer people's questions about training, dieting, and nutrition. Rather than me trying to individually have this, I have somewhere to direct the traffic.
Yeah,
and that's just another.
I read it. I read it. It's great, man. I read the part that you never, measured your bicep.
No.
You never took your body fat because that's what you're not getting judged on. You're getting judged on your physique, and your mirror was the only thing you judged by. You know what I mean? I read it, so I'm a big fan of yours too, bro.
We're artists. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to ask a bodybuilder, what are you? What's the end game? If the end game is to be Mr. Olympia, what do you got to do to get there? And it's going to take a long time staring in the mirror because that's the artwork that you're trying to I wasn't born this way. I didn't come out of the box looking like this. I had to sculpt, shape, and then fix to the degree that it would be competing on the stage. And I use this analogy when a bodybuilder gets ready because trust me, it's very discouraging to wake up and open the pages of Flex magazine or Muscle and Fitness and see who you have to beat. When you see Kevin Levrone in black and white, it's scary. To see Dorian Yates, doing his exercises and Ronnie Coleman with all that weight, knowing that that day's coming and you got to stand next to him, and I'm only 5'7", 215 pounds, it can be very intimidating. But I had to process all that, and I had to go back to okay, let me keep this together. Chris Dickerson was 5'5", 175 pounds. Samir Banu was 5'6", 180 pounds. Frank Zane was 5'9", 190. They beat everybody. They were Mr. Olympia. Muhammad Makaway at 5'5", 165 pounds, beat Lee Haney in 1983. Was second in the Mr. Olympia twice. How did that happen? They were complete. So I needed to focus on the fact that I'm not going to be the biggest, but I need to complete this physique. I got to be dialed in, ripped up, and when I get leaned out, I got to have everything pretty much in balance. And then it comes down to presentation. So for me, throughout my career, my presentation was really a reflection of those that laid the footprints. Muhammad Makaway, Lee Labrada, Frank Zane, Chris Dickerson, Samir Banu. These guys were masterful posing artists. You don't hear you'll never hear somebody say that about today's bodybuilders. No. Never. Masterful posing artists. That's what I came behind.
You actually had choreography. You already had a routine.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of people don't go to bodybuilding shows because it's fucking boring.
It's a lost art.
It's boring, right? I'm gonna go same thing. I'm like, why don't you, put something? I remember, going, seeing you pose and seeing Flex Wheeler pose, and I'm like, man, they put some time into this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They actually put in some time. They actually put some, effort behind it, not just show up and, just do a double bicep and run a real delt.
I think all you have when you're done lifting all those weights, eating all those chicken breasts, all that, dieting, sacrifice, all you have is what's documented. And so I knew that the value of a good picture will far outlive the moment that I'm living in today.
And you have some, man. Tell me about this picture.
So Chris Lund was one of my favorite photographers throughout my career. He worked with, Joe Weider, shot the best of the best. And this is probably about 10 days out from the Mr. Olympia competition. And
which one?
That was in 1998.
1998.
And so, and that was a year I actually wound up in 5th place at the Mr. Olympia. But you got to remember, you can never always nail it. It's very hard to replicate everything. Yes. It's not an exact science.
Yeah, I know.
And of course, Ronnie Coleman won his first Mr. Olympia, looked the best. He went from 9th place to 1st place. And of course, like most Mr. Olympias, except Lee Haney, when you have a nice run, they never finish the way they start. They're never as impressive. Dorian Yates was at his worst in 97 when he retired his 6th Olympia. Ronnie Coleman was at his worst when he got beat by Jay Cutler in 2005. Of course, Phil Heath was at his worst when he got beat by Sean Roden this past year. But for me, I had some peaks and valleys. I had 2 different careers. I had a career where I had hair up to 94 and I got 2nd in the Mr. Olympia. And then my 2nd career started when I shaved my head and my physique kind of evolved a little bit, but I was going up against different players, right? I'm
looking at you right now, man. The difference, I watched a documentary on Ronnie Coleman. It breaks my heart, man. The dude, is jacked up, and I remember watching you train and you didn't go crazy. You lifted hard. Like you said, what was your thing on your, let me repeat. You said, I focus my work. I don't intensely work. Am I right?
Stimulate, don't annihilate.
Exactly. Stimulate, don't annihilate, right? And I remember reading your book, man. I'm like, that's so true, because a lot of these people were just going fucking crazy. And, you know, I'm a chiropractor, right? You know, and one thing I learned is like, if you want to, you know, the art of bodybuilding should be able to stimulate the muscle and not stimulate the joint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because over time, the muscle will hypertrophy, but the joint and tendon will just going to have so much wear and tear.
Well, you can see the casualties of war. I mean, even John Brown, who started me, he wound up tearing his pec. Rich Gaspari, torn pec. Barry DeMay, a torn pec. Ronnie Coleman, torn tricep. Branch Warren, torn quadricep. Being a historian of the sport, those things are glaring when it happens. I remember them and I recall them, and I see guys training with a reckless abandon, not thinking about the future, not thinking 10 years down the road. Ronnie Coleman was a strong man. You know, he was a power lifter, and he did that throughout his body, which is why he made himself unworldly, because no one wanted to go where Ronnie Coleman was going. But you had to know, watching, that there was going to be a price to pay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
I wasn't interested in that. Bro, listen, keep those trophies, but I'm going to keep doing Shawn Ray. And the difference in an artist is that you know the speed limit, and you know that speed can kill. I knew just when to take my foot off the gas. I knew how deep in the water I wanted to go. I didn't want to go to the point where I couldn't get back to shore. My whole career is wrapped around analogies.
And longevity too.
Not only longevity, but it's also wrapped around watching what not to do. It's easy to see what you have to do as a bodybuilder, but you have to pay attention to what not to do. I couldn't do what Ronnie Coleman was doing, so I'm not even gonna try. And thank God I didn't, because look where he's at physically. Now, the flip side of that is he would do it all over again. Why? Because he's got 8 standout trophies and I got none. But I wouldn't trade one of those trophies to be in the physical health.
For not being able to walk or have to pop pills every day.
I wouldn't want that physical health and those trophies sitting on my mantle.
Oh, no.
Not with children under 10. But listen, the guy's got a thriving supplement company. He still managed to make he's not unhappy. I don't feel sorry for Ronnie Coleman. You know why? He doesn't feel sorry for himself.
Yes.
I felt sorry for Muhammad Ali until Muhammad Ali said, don't feel sorry for me. I've lived 5 lifetimes compared to everyone else. And he did. He crammed all that stuff in his world, becoming one of the world's most famous men that we will never even experience. And to have Parkinson's, which is no fault of his own, he made the best out of that and continued doing it. Ronnie Coleman was in Germany. He's driving a Rolls Royce. He's got, his house is paid off. He took care of all of his family and his mother. It's hard to feel sorry for somebody that's living the life that they want to live. If that's the price he had to pay, he was willing to pay it. For me, I have other interests.
You can say, you know what, if that's for him, but that's not for me.
Well, people say that because I didn't do what Ronnie Coleman was willing to do, I didn't win an Olympia. But let me get this straight. Neither did Kevin Levrone. Neither did Flex Wheeler. Neither did Lee Labrada, Muhammad McRae, Rich Gaspari. You want me to keep going? A lot of people were denied the Mr. Olympia, not because they weren't good enough, but because of the system that we had. We have 14 Mr. Olympia winners in 53 years of existence. There's a reason for that. It's not because the guys couldn't take the champion out. There's a systematic, subjective opinion that was in place that denied certain athletes from winning. Am I bitter? A lot of people would like me to be bitter. But what bodybuilding did for me is it's given me a life that I don't feel I worked a day in my life. I'm still living off of my sweat equity. That's what I call it. I invested in the gym. I invested in my body. I invested in my training. And from that, look at all the fruit that it's given me and the freedom that it's given me. I can't complain that I didn't win a Sandow. I'm in very good company of guys that didn't win a Sandow. So when people think that, oh, you're just mad because you didn't beat Dorian, I didn't beat Dorian, but I did. You're mad because you didn't beat Ronnie. I beat Ronnie Coleman for 5 years before he ever won his first Olympia in 1998. I was there. 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. Go back, and 97. Go back and look at that. Ronnie was there. I'm happy. My career and my cup runs over in terms of bodybuilding. I'm in a very good space now where I can market myself.
You're diversified. You're diversified in so many different things.
I love what I do.
All that kind of stuff. So let's look at this picture, man. So teenage national champion in 85. That's what he had hair.
Back. Holy crap.
Junior world champion, 85. Mr. California, 87. National champion, 87. Pro Ironman, that's when he won the 10 grand, right?
That's it.
In the 90. 2-time Arnold Classic winner, 90.
With an asterisk, by the way. 1990, I won the first drug-tested Arnold Classic championship, and I failed the test a week later, and they took the trophy, never presented the prize money. Had to give it to Mike Ashley, who was a lifetime natural bodybuilder, and he unceremoniously got the award behind closed doors. Although everyone recognizes me as that champion, I'm man enough to say I failed that test. But I came back again a year later and won the championship. By the way, the whole steroid testing was in such shambles that they got rid of it. Yeah, they never tested again.
They 1 year,
They tested the Olympia that year, and I moved from 13th to 3rd, and I passed the test. So I found redemption in being able to beat a test or pass a test. But they got rid of the testing after that because we were losing too many bodybuilders, and I think nobody believed it anyways.
I read that. I think I remember reading that. So 12-time Mr. Olympia, top 5 finalists, and you got inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2007.
Yeah, so Peter McGough is the one that told me about the induction. You have to be retired for 5 years after you compete. So in 2001 was my last Olympia. In 2002, I got engaged to my wife. In 2003, I got married, and that was when I told Peter, I'm probably not going to come back to bodybuilding. And so 5 years after that, it took 5 years for me to then get inducted in the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame. And that was an honor in and of itself because of the people that were already there. I don't think they recognize that anymore. There's no bodybuilders being inducted. There's no ceremony. I mean, Ben and Joe are gone. Peter's moved on. There's no recognition. Although if we're going to look at a body of work, obviously Dexter Jackson's a Hall of Fame bodybuilder.
Hey, you should bring that back in. Can you bring that back? I mean, that's something that should be done, man.
It's definitely worthy of a conversation. But right now, we haven't really, from 2007 till now, there's really no one that's out there. But I can tell you, moving forward, Dexter and Phil Heath are definitely worthy. Even a Kai Green, from where he came, would be worthy. Outside of that, we'd be hard-pressed to find some Hall of Fame bodybuilders that are competing in the last 5 years that would be worthy of that type of recognition.
But we should have those guys in there, though. You know, we should. I mean, I just think that's something that, you know, bodybuilding is a sport. You know, hopefully we can, you know, treat like any other sport, like, you know, football, baseball, basketball, anybody else have a Hall of Fame. So this is your training and nutrition competition.
Absolutely. So I decided, instead of just trying to dictate and try to go out and just tell people what's going on, I decided to try to like capsulize everything into one place. And that way, if you've still got questions after that, then we take it to the next level, which my online consultations are there for individual one-on-one. You can actually train with me, and I can actually get on the phone with you. So that's a follow-up to give you all the answers.
And for the people who are listening to this and people who are watching this, what is the website?
So it's ShawnRay.fitness.
ShawnRay.fitness.
Yeah, and you got the whole shebang there.
And spell Shawn for people who don't...
ShawnRay.fitness. And you can have the one-on-one phone conversation from a global standpoint, a Skype session, or we can set up an opportunity for you to come down and have a weekend and actually train together. So that's what's great about the internet, is we made the world a lot smaller and people are a lot more accessible. But the people that I run into, Sam, I mean, they're genuine, hungry young lions that aren't looking for a shortcut, but they just want to learn from the best.
I mean, look, man, I mean, you know, if I was younger right now, I would take that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I would have done.
We didn't have that opportunity.
Dude, I would have done, you know, if that was available to me back in the day, I would have begged, borrowed, and stole just to hang out with Shawn Ray for a weekend and be able to do that. And now that you have this vast knowledge of competition, nutrition, training, and you know, you can shortcut your success so much. And just to have the fact that they have access to you. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just, you know.
Yeah, I think access is key, and the internet's played a pivotal role in that, because you have a lot of Insta-famous guys that have halfway decent bodies that are looking to get paid for people to come and ask them for their advice. It's another thing going to war. It's another thing having to do it and accomplish it. And not only do it, but do it at the highest level for over a decade. Yeah. So when I look at my body of work, I'm not like impressed with myself because it happened in the blink of an eye. Let me tell you something, 13 years on the Olympia stage, it goes I've been off the stage longer than I was. I'm retired 18 years. I competed as a pro for 13 on that stage. Old. But to look back at that and see that only one person is replicating, that's Dexter Jackson. To have that longevity and that sustainability and to come out of it injury-free, by the grace of God, I'm thankful that I stayed true to my principles, that I continue to be true to the art of bodybuilding, that bigger was not better. Training smarter is better. And Labrada, another healthy bodybuilder who doesn't have any aches or pains, is giving back through his Labrada nutrition, and his son's a national champion and now a pro bodybuilder. He was a guy that I studied. and I'm a reflection of his success.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I can do the same for other guys, but I'm an open book when it comes down to helping bodybuilders get on their feet, point you in the right direction. The ones coming out looking for the fast track, I need growth hormone, insulin, that wasn't part of me. That's not how I got there. I had to build the base.
Yeah.
And so it's rewarding for me to see guys come up. I help Richard Jones, I help Melvin Anthony. Creating these bodybuilding shows, I can see the champions moving from one level to the next. This is my reward of staying in the game.
Yeah, that's you got to be rewarding to see that. So tell me about this. This is you and Chris Cormier.
Absolutely. Chris is one of my closest friends that I took from bodybuilding. Me and Chris, we have lunch. He's out in Dana Point. I'm out near the beach area, so we meet up for lunch all the time.
Yeah.
Guys come to me for training. I don't have the time because I'm traveling. I go, here, talk to my man Chris. Chris is the real deal. He's now getting into the promotion business. He's got a show coming up May 18th out in Wisconsin. Awesome. I told you I'm a sponge. All this stuff sticks to me when I hear it. And so watching him now getting into the promoter role and continuing to train these athletes that are up and coming, I can't help but really respect him because he tells me all the time. He came to my high school when I was 17 years old to wrestle. But he had already known me because I was in a high school magazine and he heard about me through Flex magazine on the teen scene. And he was coming there to wrestle, but he was really coming there to see Shawn Ray. And I blinked, and there I am at 21 years old, I'm winning the Mr. California, and he's winning the Teenage California. And he was patterning his career and following me through the ranks to the degree that now we're friends.
Yeah.
We were competitors and rivals on the bodybuilding stage. And the one thing he reminds me of was 1999. He got third place in the Mr. Olympia the first time it was held in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, that's his crowning achievement because that's the best he ever did.
Yes.
And he beat me in the process. And he had to watch me from 1988 all the way up to his first Olympia in 1999. As a matter of fact, 1998 I think was his first one. But he beat me, and that was his dream in life came true in 1998. Now, mind you, he never beat me again after that.
Right.
But we maintained a certain amount of mutual respect. And it was one of those things where I felt he beat me when I was off, and he was at his absolute best, and he'll have you say that I was at my best that year. But I'm happy for him because he's got a training thing that he's training guys and girls. Yeah. He's successful, and we have these old rivalry stories that we share. But the one common interest is that we came from the same cloth as teenagers, and here we are as men still hanging out, traveling the world doing our thing.
I think he trained at Fountain Valley Powerhouse, right?
Yeah, he was at the Fountain Valley one. And now he's over at 24 Hour Fitness, and he goes back and forth to Gold's Gym. But having that memory go with me through my career and into my retirement is really good to have because he's one of the good guys.
You know, one thing, I knew both of you guys. I hung out with both of you guys and stuff like that. Chris wasn't as focused as you, though.
No, of course
he was
not.
never. You were laser focused. I've never seen you in any of the after parties.
Right, that's not my thing.
I've never seen you out in the club.
Yeah, he's on the table dancing.
I've never seen you having a drink.
No.
I don't know if you have or not, but I never see you, do that.
That wasn't me.
Chris. Well, I've seen him a dozen of times where he was, drunk and out partying and all that kind of stuff with most bodybuilders. And that's, you're like the Floyd Mayweather of bodybuilding, where, you might hang out for a little bit, but I never see you, take a sip of alcohol.
Right.
You were laser focused. And if you, like I said, you didn't have a girlfriend or, that's like a human need.
Yeah, I think if Chris had my work ethic, Chris probably could have been Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
But he liked the idea that the reward was in the club after a thing. He's really quick to tell you that it was a great ride. I mean, even Mike Tyson is like, hey, if he had been focused, and he tells me now, Mike Tyson, I went to one of his stand-ups, he tells it now that he was partying, he was getting high, he was doing all kind of stuff, staying out late, breaking training camp, and he was knocking people out. But towards the end, he couldn't do that.
He couldn't do that no more, yeah.
But he continued the lifestyle. It was such a part of him that he couldn't continue the greatness.
Yeah.
And Chris is real quick to say that if he could go back, and every athlete might have a regret. If he could go back, what he could have become, what he could have been. I don't have the same regrets.
Yeah, you don't have. You give it your all. You know that was your absolute best. You brought it, and you have no regrets. That is crazy. I want to ask you a question because there's a rumor, that you probably heard of it. I don't know if you were there or something like that. That Rico, bunch of bodybuilders were at the club. Mm-hmm. Chris was there. we know Chris, how he had like overalls with no shirt, I mean, and I think Mike Tyson was there, and I think Mike Tyson comes and slaps Chris in the back of the head. Chris stands up to see who it is, and it was Mike Tyson. And Chris was like, okay, I'm gonna sit the fuck up like that. Is that true?
It's true. It was at Roxbury. They both, Rico and Chris and Flex were all bouncers at Roxbury. This is in '91, and I just got my Ferrari Testarossa, so I come pulling up to the front, and they weren't there yet. Flex had barely arrived. Flex was like, I think he hadn't even won the USAs.
Yeah.
He won the USAs, I think, in 1992. And so I was God to all three of those guys at the time, and I pull up in front, and Chris was still kind of like pissed off that he didn't react. Like he thought, like after Mike had left, that's when he got brave.
Yeah,
I should have done this, and I could have done it. We had to remind him that, look,
it's Mike Tyson, bro.
Yeah,
don't fuck with
that
him.
was not gonna happen. You did exactly what you're supposed to. Sit there and be stunned.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the things where Chris, he tells that story to this day, that Mike slapped him in the head, and what was Chris gonna do? I mean, Mike was at the top of his game.
Yeah, that was Mike at his prime. I mean,
actually, I said, Chris, that's a badge of honor. You got smacked by the champ.
Yeah, I heard. I was like, I wish I was a fly on the wall there, man.
Oh yeah,
I wish I was a fly on the wall. All right, so this is you're doing consultations.
Yeah, I was highlighting my gloves there. I was doing that's the Shawn Ray muscle blast glove when I was with Saranac. So that was one of those photo shoots that I was highlighting the glove, and it's a different glove because it actually has wrist protection. But
I had one.
Yeah, my consultations are, again, people can actually get me on the phone or get me on the Skype, and I give them advice.
Priceless.
Yeah, there he is, Dexter Jackson. So this is a show in Australia. Dexter won the Arnold Classic over in Australia. He's very distinctly known as being the only guy to win 9 Arnold Classic championships. He won in Australia. He won 5 in Ohio. He won the Arnold Classic over in Europe, which was in Spain. And he also won the Arnold Classic over in South Africa. So Dexter is one of the highly decorated bodybuilders. I gave him the Shawn Ray Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014 at the Shawn Ray Classic in Baltimore, Maryland. So one of the highlights of my career is that we also have a video on YouTube, 1995, I think it was, or maybe it was 97. And Dexter had just won the Junior USAs, I think it was. And I'm interviewing him just like that. And we both had hair back then. I said, so what is the long-term? He said, man, one day I want to be on that stage and compete against you. It'd be an honor to get up there and see you. I think he was like a light heavyweight. And how funny is it that life would take him way past my career? He is the winningest bodybuilder in the history of our sport.
Is he still competing?
Yes, he was in the Mr. Olympia this past year, but no one's won more shows than him, including Ronnie Coleman, and in more places. And he's in his 50s now, and he's still doing the business of bodybuilding. So for me to watch that interview in '95, to standing there in Australia interviewing him, the flashback, it's crazy. For me, I get a kick. I'm a fan.
Is Dexter have other things going on, or that's the business of bodybuilding is it?
No, he's got some Dexter Jackson classics too. He's from Florida.
That's right.
Spends time here in California. Yep. He's got 3 or 4 kids, but he's in the show promotion as well.
Perfect.
He worked with Ultimate Nutrition for a while. But he's all about bodybuilding. He's like, why am I going to retire? What am I going to retire to? I'm a bodybuilder. It's what I do. I'm injury free. So he's going to ride it till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, man. The guy looks absolutely amazing.
He's the new Albert Beckles of bodybuilding, man. He's like in his 50s.
And here you with Arnold and The Rock.
Yeah, who would have thought that I would come from right here in Orange County to be hanging out with Arnold and The Rock? I mean, Arnold, of course, again, was one of those fictional characters. Mythical figures back in '83 when I'm looking at the pictures on the wall, and he's playing, Conan the Barbarian, and then next, I'm working for him. I MC all of his shows. The 7th year, I just did the Arnold Classic in Ohio, and of course, Dwayne Johnson, another guy who his ex-wife actually, who works with him as his manager, she's a pro figure girl. They're heavy into the sport, but I'm doing my show in Hawaii. And here I am hanging out with him at the Mr. Olympia talking about my show. He's trying to get to it. We keep missing each other, but one day he's going to wind up at the Shawn Ray Classic. What's significant about this is that you don't get bigger than those 2 personalities.
No.
These are the biggest personalities in our industry.
Dude, I mean, that's the top.
Yeah.
That's the top of the top of the top.
And for me, I got my friends that didn't follow me through this path looking at these pictures going, it's me. I'm the kid that was in the grade school with them, right? So this is where bodybuilding has led me, and I couldn't be more happy and accomplished to be having this kind of company around me.
Well, Shawn, you're here because all throughout your life you planted the seeds. Now you're reaping what you sowed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not by accident, anything like that. You have gone, you marketed yourself, you've been out there, you were speaking, you've gone out and just put yourself out there. And that's why you are in the position that you are today.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So this is your travel schedule.
Yeah, a little bit crazy.
Wow.
You didn't even get the first part of the year. You're missing a couple of months there, but again, bodybuilding is global, and you are what you make of it. You don't sit, no one's going to knock on your door and say, hey, you want to come do this? I make myself available. I look at my calendar, I work off my calendar, but the diversification is that I'm not going to say there's things that aren't beneath me, but I work in a space where if my celebrity has value, I'll be there. I'm going to France as a special guest to a guy that's promoting a show for the first time. A big fan of mine that's got multiple gyms. He's opening a gym in Dubai. He was supposed to be in Germany promoting his supplement line, but he's blossomed into this empire of physical fitness in France. And one of the things he wanted was Shawn Ray at his show. Well, how awesome is that for them to bring me out there to be a guest of honor and to bring in the president of the federation, Jim Mannion. But these are all in different capacities. And the guest over here in Iraq that takes place in 2 weeks turned into a Shawn Ray seminar and a Master of Ceremonies. So it's evolved. I'm making a couple of extra appearances. Shanghai, China, that's where my equipment company, Real Leader, is out of China. So this is a big equipment expo coming up in May, and we'll head out to the factory immediately after that and shoot some video out there. I host the Fit Expo seminars all around the country, and I bring in top professionals and top amateurs, and I interview them about their journey. I'm the moderator, and that's very rewarding for me because the first one I did was in 1988, and I was a guest, and now I'm the host. The Maldives, I'll be out there training the trainers. I mean, why not? If you're going to train people, why not go to the Maldives? And
you always put your stuff. I noticed that you design it around some of the most beautiful places.
It's
not you don't do a lot of stuff in Detroit.
No, Detroit, Flint, Michigan's not calling me. But if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it where it's the first time I'll be there and I'll enjoy it. Absolutely. The Amateurs Olympias are very big. They're global. They have them not only in China, but they're also in Italy and they're in Japan. And that's another area where I'm bringing my celebrity status to validate the existence of the NPC worldwide. Of course, the Fit Expo will move into San Jose. I'm going to miss the USA Championships because it's on the same weekend. And of course, the Mr. Olympia, the biggest weekend, the 54th anniversary of the Joe Weider weekend. I'll be working with Flex Magazine and Muscle and Fitness, promoting that with Dan Solomon and the guys. Gianrico Pica, he's promoting the Yamamoto Cup in Italy. That's a bodybuilder who's very good friends with me for many, many years. And Milo Sarchev as well, and he's now in the promotion business. Again, we wind up in San Diego for the Fit Expo. I also host a segment of that for the Dumbbell Hall of Fame induction with Dave Johnson. And I got to induct the king of the covers, Jason Ellis, here in Los Angeles in January. I'll be doing that again in San Diego. And then I'll be with Hidetada Yamagishi in Japan as the Master of Ceremonies. And it's also an Amateur Olympia, huge undertaking. And I'll come back to Honolulu for the Shawn Ray Classic, third one, and wind up in Italy. It's a busy, people go, when are you home to raise your kids? In between all of that stuff, this is creating an opportunity for me to be home. When I'm home, I'm 24/7.
You know, one thing I admire about you is that you are so into your girls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see the way you promote them. I see the way you put them in the right places. You know, I see how you care for them.
Yeah.
You know, and I admire that so much about you, bro.
Thank you.
I know that this is a vehicle for you to be able to provide and give them what they want.
Absolutely.
It's not like you just want to be away. You're doing this for fun.
Those are my standout trophies.
Yeah, exactly.
So
man. I mean, you are, man. Your girls, they're going to be superstars. They're going to be TV stars. They're going to be something huge. I can feel it because what you're doing for them, what you did for yourself.
Sure.
You're now their agent.
Yeah.
Now you're doing everything for them, man. And I'm so proud of you as a man.
I appreciate that.
You, man. How does your wife deal with the travel schedule?
So she married into it. It's the only difference is you're able to see it now. I mean, back in 2003 when I got married, the internet wasn't around, Instagram wasn't around. You couldn't see it. But think about it. Throughout the 90s, this was happening in the 90s. I mean, I've been doing it for decades, and so she traveled with me before we had the kids, and a little bit when we had the kids. But you have two kids running in different directions, and I'm at the mic or I'm promoting. it's boring for her. That's the Shawn Ray thing. The good thing about having
She enjoys just being a mom, taking
exactly
care of kids.
having the freedom for me to continue doing what I do keeps a happy home.
Shawn, go out there, do what you do, provide for us. I take care of the kids, so you guys have a role. You know, that's amazing.
Let me tell you something about trying to clip the wings of a bird. You want that bird to sit in the cage all day, you clip the wings and it doesn't fly. That bird's not going to be very happy. I think my family in general are happier when I'm working because I come home with the fruit of my labor and I'm able to share it with them. Forget about the monetary side, but when I'm home, I'm present.
Yes.
I'm not working, I'm with them. And so how many people are working that 9 to 5 that are gone more than I am?
Yeah,
because that's 5 days a week. From 9 to 5, you're gone. Well, this is a weekend type thing that's spread out throughout the course of the year. But I don't miss those magic moments. I don't miss Christmas. I don't miss Easter. I don't miss the birthdays. I mean, the times I need to be present, I'm present. But this is where my happiness is, and it's a reflection on the success that they're having.
Yeah, man. I'm sitting here in front of you. It's surreal, man. It's been an honor.
Thank you.
To just watch you throughout your whole career. Like I said, you are one of my mentors, role models growing up. Now we became friends, and I look up to you not only as a bodybuilder, also as a business person.
Thank you.
Someone who has great work ethics, somebody who I call a 1%er, who has their faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun together. To me, 1% represents those 5 areas of life. And if you don't have those 5 areas of life, something sooner or later will give.
Well, you also have to remember the flip side is that some people don't want to do anything unless they're getting paid to do it. And this was not something I took up trying to make money. Think of me as a 17-year-old kid, not knowing how a bodybuilder makes money, shaving my legs, competing for a $5 trophy, and getting excited to do it all over again, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Along the way, I grew up, became a man, and found out about the business because I opened my eyes and saw that there was reward in certain areas. But if you find your passion, you never work a day in your life, and that is as true as it gets.
And I can see, unlike most bodybuilders, this is your true passion. You still have the passion, whether you're on the stage or off the stage, you still have the passion for the sport, which is so hard because a lot of people, last time I heard Dorian does not lift, he's doing yoga.
Yeah. Some people use the sport as a vehicle.
Yes.
It's a stopping place, but for me, it's a lifestyle. Again, I work out to stay fit. I'm not working out because I'm trying to look a certain way. And a lot of people go, Shawn, you keep putting up these pictures of your feet. Why do you keep putting up pictures of your feet? I said, you know what? This is where bodybuilding brought me. I have the cameras on me and my body my entire life. And now I'm showing you my perspective. So when I'm sitting there by a pool with a nice little drink in my hand, looking at what God's created, I want you to share in that view. Stop looking at my feet and look at what I'm actually looking at. Pay attention to where in the world I'm taking that photograph from, because all I have are the barbells and the dumbbells to thank for that. Yeah. That brought me here. Yeah. While you were sleeping or partying or doing all of that other stuff that you guys were doing, I was in the gym building all of this, and all of this took me to this photograph. Yeah. So I'm going to continue taking pictures of my feet to give you the view.
At Pelican Hill.
to give you the But I can tell you, even there, the work doesn't stop, because what's great about the internet is that you can take it anywhere. Yes. And so while things may slow down, I'm still able to enjoy my work because I'm able to work on a mobile basis.
Hey, like you told me one time, if I'm going to work, I might as well work with the view.
That's it.
And
I love the views.
Shawn, brother, I love you, man. I look up to you. I appreciate. I know with this kind of travel schedule, with everything that you're doing, coming to the crib, I know it's a lot for you, man. And I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, appreciate you being on the show, man.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the 1%. Come
Thank
back
you.
anytime.
1%.